Still having fun? We are working on a really unique project today. I am working on some galvanized buckets and I'm going to make them so I want one to be elegant and one to be more child friendly, maybe a little bit what I would call a storybook bucket. So you never see this guy, but I couldn't do anything that I do without him. He's my biggest supporter. And today he gave all of my buckets a thorough top coat, actually a bottom base coat of primer so that I would be ready to paint them and make my bucket craft today. He painted the primer outside in a super warm, wonderful day, so the primer dried pretty fast. And then I was on to paint them inside with the Wise Owl 1 hour enamel paint. And I know I'm going to have to do 2 coats of paint, so I do one light coat, I totally let it dry, and then I do a second coat. And the green one was a mix of 2 different colors, and it only needed 1 coat, but the black carbon one needed 3. So once I got that paint and it dried, it was time to pick some transfers to put on it. And the green bucket is the one I want to be really fun and very whimsical and really childish. And so I am using the kitschy transfer and I'm cutting out a bunch of the pieces that would be perfect for Christmas stories, the candy, Frosty the Snowman, and I'm actually taking that Bambi there, and I'm going to put a red nose on him so that I have rooted off. The snowman is my focal point, so I have to have him. And then I'm going to do something with the glad tidings. I am going to kind of cut part of it up and use it as my typography for this piece. And I'm cutting all these little flowers out because actually I was going to cut those flowers in half and make a border out of it. And I think that's enough to start with. We'll see what happens once we get some of the um, different motifs adhered to the bucket. And this green, I think, is just the perfect pear green for these vintage decals. I love this color green. And there's Frosty with Bambi right next to him. And that's how we're going to do our center part. He's our focal point. The Wise Owl 1 hour enamel is perfect for adhering transfers. They just want to jump right on it. So I could see how fast they just are perfect. Never have had any trouble with the transfers adhering to the 1 hour enamel. And Frosty's done. I really like overlapping the transfer pieces so that you get a much more natural look. And they pretty easily do overlap one another. You just have to be a little more careful because it takes a little more work to get them adhered over another transfer. To finish off this bucket, I'm going to use the Good Tidings ribbon with the um, holly around it, and I'm going to use 5 of those square florals. And what I did is I just cut them in half right down the middle and then just put the cut edge up against the top and adhered them. And it came out great. Even though the flowers were parts of flowers, it looks perfect. Then I put the good tidings down the bottom right around the snowman's feet. And I also cut out a whole bunch of the candy and just put them here, there, and all around the bucket, and it has a wonderful, whimsical feel. These galvanized buckets are vintage sap buckets from the 1960s, and they are perfect for storing stuff, for putting toys in, for using as little tiny trash cans. And the next one we're going to be making is kind of like a guy one. And what we usually do is we fill it up with birch branches, and it's perfect right by a fireplace or a wood stove. Now I know I said I was gonna make this guy elegant, but he was way too serious. So we ended up putting a wreath on his head, which is kind of fun. But I went through the Crimson Velvet transfer and found a bunch of pieces that I thought would be appropriate. And I wanted there to be more flowers. And so I used a lot of the little flowers that came with this transfer. It's flowers and stars and books, a couple bows, and I loved the border, which I put along the top of this bucket, which is kind of like just a berry vine. It was really nice. And this is the transfer that has that beautiful Christmas tree that you're seeing all over the place that is actually going to be our next project. So here I am trying to figure out exactly what I can put on this bucket. But again, we'll be coming back later and getting some more pieces. But this is a good bunch to start with. And that was it for the flowers. And now it's time for that really nice red ribbon. And on that ribbon, I put some of the tinsel transfer, the gold leaf. I put the piece on earth. And to get it to go along that curve, what I did is I cut the pieces out and did one at a time so that it would fit and also have that little bit of a curved shape. I know it's virtually impossible to read the words on the video, but they did come out really nice and clear. And then it was time to add a little more gold embellishments, and I added a little more flowers around, like I said, around the top of his head, just to make it a little more not quite so serious. And here they are, all set and ready to celebrate Christmas with.